morning to you, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are watching us from. You are live on STEM Radio Vision, and this is the CONFAB on your prestigious platform, STEM Radio Vision. And don't forget that we are located at Obokun Avenue in Transformers Junction, Elisha, Ocean State. I am Chidima Abel, and I also have someone here, but I will be introducing him later. Today's headlines once again place, power, accountability, and human cost side by side. In Nigeria's political space, tensions are rising as Bauchi State governor, in the person of Bala Mohammed, and FCT Minister Yesom Wike clash over serious allegations bordering on terrorism financing. The governor insists that they are politically motivated. With the EFCC now in the picture, wow, the episode raises deeper questions about the use of state institutions, party rivalry, and what this means for public trust as the country looks towards 2027. Meanwhile, in Ibadan, nearly a year after the tragic Bodija explosion, the Oyo State government has confirmed that 30 billion naira in federal intervention funds remains untouched. While officials cite due process and pending balances, critics argue that delays in emergency response only worsen public frustration and suffering. The debate has now shifted from reconstruction to transparency and then leadership in times of crisis. And beyond Nigeria's borders, tragedy has struck off the coast of the Gambia, where a migrant boat carrying about 200 people capsized while attempting the dangerous journey to Europe. With lives lost and many still missing as we are speaking to you right now, the incident is a sobering reminder of the desperation driving irregular migration and the limit of existing policies meant to stop these deadly crossings. This morning, we will look beyond the headlines to examine what the stories collectively tell us about governance, about responsibility, and the human consequences of political and economic decisions. Stay with us as we dissect these issues. Okay, right now with me I have Abel Ajiboye.
Oh, finally you remember to introduce me.
Yes, I can't forget you because we've been doing this together. I can't do this alone, it's not possible. So we've been dissecting these issues together. Yes, so I need you to stay with us and don't forget to join the conversation. Drop a comment for us in the comment section. What do you feel about these issues that we will be unraveling right now? Okay, the very first story with us this morning is about Wike and Bauchi governor locking head. They are loggerheads over terrorism financing claims. And you know that we have talked about this terrorism financing. Allegedly, we said so many people have alleged that some of these political actors are the brains behind financing.
If I could stop you there, Chidima, the allegations are that we have major players present in the current administration, that's from the federal level, that are involved in the financing and the sponsoring of all these terror groups. You know, they are no longer just one cell. Before, all Nigeria had to deal with was Boko Haram, but now they have different factions. We have Boko Haram, we have the headsmen, we have the bandits, we have ISWAP. Now we have Larukawa in the northeast. They are just coming up with different cells and you know, the allegations is that we have major players, major elite players, both in the government and outside of the government, that are sponsoring these people, and that the motive there is money. For some, the motive is Islamic domination, and there's a lot about it. So it's not surprising that you find this kind of allegations levied against prominent players in the government at this moment, because this is what people have always suspected.
Okay, now moving ahead, we said the Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed and the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory Nyesom Wike were on Thursday locked in a war of words over allegations of terrorism financing leveled against the Bauchi governor. Appearing on Channels Television, Mohammed alleged a political witch hunt by President Bola Tinubu, adding that Wike was behind the terrorism financing charges filed against Bauchi State Commissioner for Finance in the person of Yakubu Adamu, in which his own name was mentioned. Now, the EFCC had on Wednesday arraigned Adamu and 3 others for alleged terrorism financing to the tune of 9.7 million US dollars. With Governor Mohammed's a lot of money. with Governor Mohammed's name appearing in the charges. Now, speaking on Thursday, Mohammed linked the charges to an earlier threat by Wike to put fire in Bauchi State, alleging he was using federal agencies, political structures to undermine his administration. Mohammed also accused people around President Tinubu of working against him. Some want to join the All Progressives Congress. According to him, he said, and I quote, he said, some want to join the All Progressives Congress, some don't, like Wike. Wike is a big drag on the administration, and the president should know. I have nothing against him. Mohammed, who is the chairman of the People's Democratic Governors Forum, accused Wike of working to kill the party ahead of the 2027 general election. Now, this story sits at the dangerous intersection of politics, at security, and even institutional credibility. Terrorism financing is not a routine allegation. It carries national and international consequences. When such a charge enters a partisan field, it immediately raises suspicion, regardless of the facts.
Definitely, because if you look at the situation now, it's more of a case of he said, he said, and he said. It's an he said and he said.
Apportioning blames.
Yeah, apportioning blames. Now, Wike is allegedly saying, he's accusing the governor of Bauchi State, Bala Mohammed, and he's saying his name came up, as among the financiers or the sponsors for these terrorist cells. And Bala Mohammed on his own hand is defending himself by saying Wike already threatened him that was going to set fire on Bauchi State because of political feud. I believe that Bala Mohammed is from PDP. Wike is also from PDP, but it's not common knowledge that Wike is working for the APC right now. It's common knowledge. It's common knowledge that he's working for the APC. He's working for the APC-led administration.
Even though he's a member of PDP.
Even though he's a member of PDP. And, there's going to be power tussles. There's going to be a lot of things. So where do Nigerians draw the line? I think this is the problem. That's what the discussion should mostly be about. Where should Nigerians draw the line? Because right now, Nigerians can't pick sides. We don't know who's right. We don't know who's wrong. It's just accusation being thrown around. For all we know, it could be true. Bala Mohammed could be among the sponsors of all these terrorist groups causing insurgency and insecurity all across the country. That is a possibility. We're going to address that as a probability. It is not 100% certain.
It is not 100%. It's just
and then on the other side, it could really truly be a political feud between Wike and Mohammed. And and Wike is trying to use state powers to deal with Bala Mohammed because because of the the tussle and the power struggle between both of them. So it can go both ways. Both are probable situations, and that's why we have to be careful, because public perception is a dangerous thing.
There is the issue of perception versus proof. You said we are not certain yet about these allegations.
Yes,
so even without a formal charge against the governor, the mere appearance of his name in an EFCC case is enough to damage political capital. In Nigeria's climate today now, allegations often become verdicts in the court of public opinion long before investigations are even concluded.
Well, talking about the court of public opinion, it's the same court of... I once mentioned something like that. So looking at the court of public opinion, one of the things we need to understand, especially when it comes to this kind of allegation and when it involves big politicians like this, is that the public opinion doesn't really face them that much, because they will always have supporters. They will always have blind people who are blind to party loyalty. So no matter what evidence you tender, they don't care. They are loyal to party, they are loyal to individuals, they are loyal to their stomachs, they are loyal to whatever you have. So that's one aspect I want you to look at when it comes to cases like this. For example, now Bala Mohammed has his own loyalists that will stand and defend him, just as Wike has loyalists that will stand and defend him in this case. Like I said at the beginning, this is a case of he said and he said. There's no pure evidence, there's no empirical evidence yet that we can use to determine if truly the allegations are true or not. And I'm referring to both sides in this situation. So talking about how the public opinion turns against the politician with the EFCC case, can we look at the case of the former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello? I mean, why is he coming out contesting for an election? That means that sometimes, as powerful as the court of public opinion can be at times, sometimes it just loses power, especially when it comes to politics.
Exactly. So another layer now we have to look at here is the intra-party warfare. this is not just about Wike. It is not just about Wike and Bala Muhammad.
Definitely.
You know, it reflects a broader struggle for relevance, for control, and for survival within the PDP as 2027 approaches. The public clash exposes deep fractures and the risks, portraying the party as consumed by internal battles rather than governance.
Well, one thing is, as 2027 keeps coming closer, as the elections keep coming closer, I want the public to be well prepared for this. We are going to be seeing more of this intra and inter-party clashes. Because the truth of the matter is, let's look at what is happening within Labour Party. One of the things was that Labour Party presented a candidate that was a threat to the ruling party. It was they presented that, and you know, most of the internal disturbance within Labour Party that led to Peter Obi eventually, you know, exiting the party and defecting. This is part of what we are saying. It's going to happen a lot this 2026. All parties are going to have that shake-up. I don't know much about the APC. They look strong on the surface, but by the time election starts drawing close, a lot of interests are going to be clashing. There's going to be a lot of clash of interest within parties. And, you know, that is also going to lead to many inter-party clashes, because it's not going to be funny, because 2027 is going to determine not just the fate of the nation, but the soul of the very nation.
All right, viewers, this is the CONFAB on Esteem Radio Vision. Remember that you can always join the conversation. Leave a comment for us in the comment section, like and share. So we've been talking about Wike and Bala Muhammad. Before we move on to the next headline here, I want to say that there's the institutional angle we have to also draw from this problem between Wike and Bala Muhammad. Each time anti-graft or security agencies are dragged into political disputes like this, or public confidence in those institutions weakens. Have you noticed something like this? That there is the institutional angle. Each time anti-graft or security agencies are dragged into political disputes, public confidence in those institutions weakens. Even if the agencies are acting lawfully, that erosion of trust is one of the most damaging long-term effects of cases like this.
Well, let's look at the example from the story.
Although
from the
I'm
headline
still coming
itself.
with some questions for you
From
as
the headline
the
itself,
analyst.
let's look at some things.
Okay.
Like, look at the EFCC. The EFCC has not proven itself credible in the last decade, in the past decade, because so many politicians have been indicted, and all we hear is that they are invited to the EFCC office. There's no transparency. We don't know what transpires. And then the same politicians who are accused, there's no court of law. There's no court, there's no sitting, there's no tribunal, nothing. They just come out and start contesting for other political posts, and the story goes like that. And so that really eroded public confidence. It really displays, it made the public wonder if their trust in government agents, if their trust has not been abused. Because if the same EFCC will go raid a club, they will raid hotels, they will even raid private individuals, private houses, without warrant, and they will tag the person a fraudster. They will tag the person this without even having evidence. Without evidence that the person committed fraud, immediately they would have put the person's picture with their face. They would have put it online for everyone to see. And at the end of the day, when it turns out the person is not a fraudster, we don't hear the apologies. But it comes to politicians, and the EFCC becomes a toothless dog. So you look at that kind of situation for the past decade. It has been like that for the past decade. So when we say that it can lead to, you know, to turning the institution into that of weakness, the truth of the matter is it cannot lead to that. It has already led to that. It has already led to that.
That's the situation.
So now, even if the agencies are acting lawfully, no one trusts them anymore.
Now, one question before we move to the next segment.
Headline.
You know, from a political analysis standpoint now, how serious are terrorism financing allegations when they enter partisan disputes like this? How serious? Well, you actually made reference to it while you were making your point earlier, but I want you to throw more light into it. How serious? Well,
when it comes to the allegations of sponsoring terrorists, it goes two ways. Now, one of the most serious consequences of such allegations is that you lose all credibility. You lose all credibility. You lose the goodwill of the people, especially if you're a public office holder. You lose the goodwill of the citizens of your people, because why would you sponsor people that are killing your people? When these terrorists
remember,
are
it is
operating
allegedly.
in the north, yes. I know it is allegedly. That's why I'm saying there are to the allegations itself.
The indications we say, okay.
Now, even without evidence, even without it being proven, it's just an allegation. The fact that you have been stained with that allegation alone as a public office holder is going to lose you the goodwill of the people, is going to lose you the trust of the people, is going to smear your reputation as a person. That's just the surface consequence. Now, it's going to open you up to investigations. It's going to open you up to a lot of investigations. Now, while it may be that particular public holder, for example, Governor Bala Mohammed, while it may be that he's not sponsoring terrorist organizations, but is he able to actually beat his chest and say with 100% confidence that he does not have other skeletons in his cupboard? Because these investigations might reveal that while he is not involved in sponsoring terrorists, it might open up his cupboard and, you know, show us the skeletons inside.
Okay.
So those are the consequences of such allegations.
Looking ahead to 2027, how might this feud affect PDP cohesion and voter perception, especially in the northern part of Nigeria?
Well, this feud is not helping PDP at all, because I feel what the PDP needs to do is find a way to deal with Wike if they want to, you know, get a little bit of territory back, because as it is, the PDP as a party is on sinking sand. That's the truth. They're on sinking sand. The party has become a shadow of its former self right now. And, you know, that's due to everything Wike has been doing within the party for the past 1 year. You will see that he has really destabilized the party internally. And if something is not done about it, well, the truth of the matter is that the PDP is not going to stand a chance. In fact, they're not going to stand a chance against the coalition party. And I don't know how it will be, but it's possible that even PDP might just not appear on the ballot box if they're not careful.
Oh, okay. Now we just move to the next segment because of our time. The second story here says 30 billion naira federal government funds unused. Makinde tells Fayose 30 billion naira federal government fund remains unused. Makinde tells Fayose the Oyo State government has explained, just listen to the word explained, why Governor Seyi Makinde did not publicly announce the receipts of a 30 billion naira intervention fund from the federal government following the January 2024 Bodija explosion. I'm sure you know about the Bodija explosion.
Yes.
He said that special intervention funds are subject to the budgeting process and do not require public announcements upon receipts. I don't know how true this is. Now, the explanation was contained in a statement issued on Thursday by the Commissioner for Information, Prince Dotun Oyelade. The state government also disclosed that the 30 billion naira released by the federal government in November 2024 remains untouched in a dedicated bank account, as they still awaiting the release of the outstanding 20 billion naira balance from the 50 billion naira approved for the reconstruction of old Bodija and its environs. Now, Fayose in a television interview had challenged Makinde to give an account of how he spent the 50 billion naira released to him by the federal government.
Okay.
Now, in response, Makinde, through his media aide in the person of Sulaiman Olanrewaju, revealed that indeed 50 billion naira intervention fund was actually released. They didn't deny it, they did not debunk, they did not, you know, dispute it.
Or try to divert attention away from it.
They admitted that 50 billion naira intervention fund was actually approved, but only 30 billion naira was released to them. Now, further addressing the matter on Thursday, Oyo Information Commissioner said the 30 billion naira remained untouched and domiciled. That is, it is sitting down in the Oyo State Government Infrastructure Support account. They even, you know, disclose the account number, but I won't be calling out the account number. That's just to tell you how transparent. They try to be transparent enough by revealing the account. So that calls for, they're actually telling the public, go check this account. If we are lying, it will prove to you. You understand? So they're just trying to tell the public that we have it saved in a particular account. And this is the account where this money is domiciled. Now, elaborating the story, it highlights the tension between bureaucracy and human urgency. While due process and budgeting rules are important, disaster response operates on a very different moral clock. Delays, even when procedurally justified, can feel insensitive to victims still rebuilding their lives. Now, politically, the controversy shows how silence creates suspicion. The government's arguments that intervention funds do not require public announcement may be administratively sound. But in a climate of distrust, absence of communication often reads as secrecy. So I want to hear your take on this.
Well, thank you, Chidima. Well, one of the things we have to look at is the fact that what the Oyo State government has done. You know, you see, the governor said something. He said that such funds don't need to be disclosed to the public.
Yes.
However, the truth of the matter is we live in a country where transparency is not the watchword of most governments. And I will say that it is best for every government, even when it is not necessary to be transparent. Just be transparent, because not only does that build trust for such a government, it also enables the public to have goodwill towards you, because you are doing something out of the norm for most governments. That's one thing. Now, the other is that the fact that 50 billion was approved. This thing happened in 2024. 50 billion was approved. And you want to tell me that this is 2026. This is 2026. And the rest of that money, only 30 billion has been released. And the rest of that money has not been released. You see that is a big shame to the federal government. That's a big slap on the face of the federal government. Now, coming down to the state government, it is also wrong to have left that money like that. After all, records can be kept of how the money has been spent. That money should have been disbursed and should have been used for the purpose for which it was released. At least to an extent. Is why we say the problem with most Nigerian leaders is that they are unable to put themselves in the shoes of the common man. Now, while the money approved has not been released in all its totality, the percentage that has been released could have already gone a long way to relieve the victims of that Bodija fire disaster. And by the time the work has started and people are seeing the work, there will be no challenge. Imagine, it took someone challenging the government, it took another politician challenging the government before the government finally decided to be transparent. Now, every step the government took by keeping the money in a safe account, by doing it was right. But the one problem was the transparency and the fact that the government delayed on taking action till this moment.
Now, there's also a leadership uptick issue here. Keeping funds untouched may, signal prudence to technocrats, but to the public can look inertia. Crisis leadership is, how will I put it, as much as about timing and empathy as it is about accounting. The intervention by Fayose introduces another layer: political opportunism versus legitimate oversight. Once former political rivals enter the narrative, the original humanitarian focus risks being lost, replaced by personality-driven debate. Now, let me come to you now. You know, how does delayed utilization of disaster funds, typically affect public trust in government?
Not just public trust, it even affects the lives of the public themselves. Because look at the fire disaster. A lot of people lost properties. People's investments were gone with smoke. They were gone up in smoke. They were gone with the wind at that moment. And then you have that kind of situation where the government had funds on hand to relieve the people, and the government did not act because the approved fund has not been released in its totality. It really affects trust. How do I trust a government that does not care about me, that does not care about what is happening with me? They only care about the bottom line. They only care about bureaucracy. They only care about the protocol. The truth of the matter is there's an adage in English. It says, laws are dead, men are alive. Yes, there's always going to be exigent situations where you don't care about protocol, where you shift protocol aside, where you set, the normal procedure, you set it aside in order to save lives, in order to give relief, in order to give aid. And this is the one thing that I see that the Nigerian government, in all its parastatals, from the federal level down to the local government level, they are really failing at this. They are failing at this, and it keeps disappointing the Nigerian populace, because these things, it's not rocket science. It's simple.
Okay, now, does this affect Hot Makinde politically?
Not really, not really. Though it will do a bit of damage to his reputation, even among the Oyo people. Even among the Oyo people, because now his so-called spotless and clean record has been stained. But it's not going to be so big that it will affect his reputation generally. It's just going to be that small stain, that little stain where people can be like, oh, he didn't have a perfect record. He didn't have a spotless record. That's the only consequence.
All right, before we move to the next segment, what lessons should the state government learn about crisis communication, about accountability from this whole scenario, from this situation?
Well, like I said before, laws are dead and people are alive. So you look at this kind of situation. If it was not for crisis relief or crisis management, you know, that fund was meant to relieve disaster, to help mitigate the effects of that Bodija fire incident. And the government failed to take action. And it's not like they were not right. The excuse the government gave is right, it's justified. But it's not. But while it is justified legally, while it is justified procedurally, morally it is not justified. Because lives were at stake, investments were at stake, people's means of livelihood were already at stake, and the government delayed this long. How are the victims? How have they been surviving so far? There was no empathy. So the state government needs to learn empathy. Empathy is the one thing that was missing in this story. Empathy. So that's what I would say, that the government needs to learn empathy. If it had been any other situation aside crisis and disaster, the government could have done this. It could have been maybe an infrastructural project or anything that didn't have to do with helping the victims of this case, of this situation. And nobody would have raised the rancor. We would understand it as procedure. But when it comes to saving lives, when it comes to crisis, and another thing is that during crisis, communication is important. Like I said, it may be true, as Sheyi Makinde said, that such funds don't need public disclosure. But because of the circumstances surrounding the release of these funds, I believe it would have been better for the state government of Oyo State that they had been more transparent with the people.
But the government has already released this 30 billion naira. Should we still blame the government? They responded by giving out 30 billion naira to him.
Which is like 80% of the approved funds.
Who do we blame now? Is it the government or the governor?
The blame goes all around in this situation.
Okay.
Because you approved a certain fund, you released the percentage, and then you just kept quiet. You kept mum, and there was nothing about the rest again.
I got to there.
So that one goes. Now the state government is also to be blamed. Did you ever question the federal government about the release of the remaining balance? Did you ever raise an alarm? Did you ever communicate with the appropriate authorities on getting the remaining funds released? And if you did and such refused to be released, where was the communication with the public? Where was the communication with the public? The public was not informed. The public knows nothing until this is 2026. That happened in 2024. Until 2 years later, someone had to challenge you, a political rival for that matter. And when it comes to political rivalry, it now becomes a back and forth. It shouldn't have gotten to that level. That's why I said the blame should be passed all around.
The government has a share also. All right, moving ahead to the very last headline here. The story says, dozens missing after boat carrying 200 migrants sinks off Gambia.
That is it's a sad news.
I know, people are always, very quick, especially Africans. They are always very quick to migrate. I don't know. But we really need to look at this morning. At least 7 people have died already, and many others are missing after a boat carrying about 200 migrants attempting to reach Europe capsized off the coast of the Gambia, authorities say. Now, the boat overturned on Wednesday midnight near Jinak village in the North Bank region, and it was later found grounded on a sand bank.
Indeed.
96 people have been rescued so far, and a search is continuing for other passengers who were aboard the shipwrecked vessel that was heading towards Spain's Canary Islands. The perilous journey over the Atlantic Ocean has become an increasingly common route for African migrants trying to reach Europe. This is really sad. Now, the Gambia is one of the routes used by migrants trying to reach Europe, often on dangerous journeys by sea and land. In recent years, the European Union has reached agreement with several North African countries aimed at, reducing irregular migration.
True.
This tragedy is a symptom of structural failure, not individual recklessness. People do not risk the Atlantic out of ignorance. They do so because remaining feels worse than the risk of dying at the sea.
Okay.
So I want to hear your take on this.
Well, like I said before, this is a tragedy, and it gives us all, now globally, I'm not just talking about Nigerian, it gives us all this clarity. We need to take a moment, pause, and rethink what we're doing as a people. The world is a global village, but the world, that's because of the internet and communication, but the world still doesn't feel like a global village. And now coming down to Africa, people will wonder, why would anybody in their right mind risk the Atlantic Ocean, knowing that if any accident happens on the ocean, you are gone for good? Why would anybody risk that? Well, the truth of the matter is, one, we have this mentality of the grass is greener on the other side. That's the first thing. The grass is greener on the other side for us. And that is a problem.
Okay, so you're trying to blame the people?
No, I'm not blaming the people. What I'm saying is that the situation that will make someone leave their home and risk their life, it means that they have to look back at what is going on. They have to, the country from which, and these people, they are not just going to be Gambians. I'm sure you find Nigerians among them.
Of course.
You find other nationalities
just
among
them.
So the countries from which these victims came, there has to be an internal restructuring. There has to be, what did we do that made this country so terrible that people would rather die than stay back in the country? Let's look at the Japa syndrome all over Nigeria. People would rather risk, people with good jobs on the surface, good sounding jobs, would rather leave those jobs behind. A banker would leave their banking job behind to go to the US or the UK and wash plates, to work as a dishwasher, to work in a restaurant as a cook, or even sweep the streets. Not just because of the pay, but because of the system. The system takes care of the citizens. One of the arguments I saw online this morning when I got on social media was about this tax law issue. And somebody said, this is what my tax is giving me overseas. That he was unemployed for 2 months, and for the 2 months he was unemployed, the government was paying him.
Wow.
And when he got his employment, even that month that he got his employment, the government still paid him. But the payment stopped after his employment. He said if anything happens at that employment and he gets sacked, he can always file another unemployment file. And until he gets employment, he becomes a beneficiary of the government. Do we have such in Nigeria?
Now,
do we have such security? Not just on the terms of employment. Maternity. I saw another one. They were showing the picture, the video of the hospital where Anthony Joshua was treated for his accident, and somebody quoted, he said, this is a world-class hospital in Lagos, Nigeria. Nigeria has the best healthcare. And immediately Nigerians flooded the comment section of that person to tell him, nope. Saying this is an hospital that 85% of Nigerians cannot afford. And somebody came with the statistics. He said this hospital charges 500,000 naira per night. And I'm like, is it an hotel? An hospital that's meant to save lives? How many people can even boast of earning 500,000 naira per month in Nigeria right now? In a country where the minimum wage is 77,000 naira. In a country, your minimum wage is 77,000 naira, and the world-class hospital that can probably maybe attend to you is charging 500,000 naira for a night of a patient being admitted to the hospital. Let's be frank here. But you go overseas and then there's healthcare.
Now let's look at it from another angle. The Atlantic route's growing popularity shows something. It shows that containment policies are not solving migration problems.
It's not a policy problem. That's
where
redirecting
it to deadlier path.
That's where the government,
African agreements may reduce arrivals on paper, but they often increase, mortality in reality.
Chidima, this is where the governments of the world are getting it wrong. And the governments of the world are trying. They establish a lot of things. I mean, it's their country. They don't want too much people flooding into their country so that they don't have a population problem and many other things associated with it. But the truth of the matter is that the global countries, those foreign countries, have no problem. I've got no beef with them. I have no bone in stake with them. I've got a problem with our own local government, our own homegrown governments here. Why can't you make your country as standardized as those countries over there? The things that are attractive over there, you can bring it over here. Our government, our leaders, they go over there for vacation. When they are sick, look at the late President Muhammadu Buhari. He didn't die in the Nigerian hospital. He died in the UK. Even the president, the current president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, how many times in the past few years that he became president, you can count. He has been the president that has traveled out the most, using the resources of the nation, going abroad, going overseas anyhow. And yet, you couldn't make your own country attractive enough for people to stay economically, financially, in terms of job security and all that. So the problem is not the policies. Look, US will come with visa policies. Every country will have visa policy. And it will not stop people from still risking their life to get there by hook or crook. What is attracting them there is something that our governments here at home can do. But they have refused to do their duty. That is why they were elected. That is why they are in that position. But they have refused to do that. When you have leaders that have refused to do what they need to do, what happens is that the citizens will start finding a way out for themselves. If they don't find a way out for themselves, the citizens will fight out of frustration. And when they fight back, it becomes a civil war. And everybody is praying, we don't want civil war, we don't want crisis, we don't want chaos, we don't want anarchy in the country. And now the citizens are trying to find a better way by going where they believe the grass is greener. But the other side where the grass is greener, there are a lot of policies, there are a lot of agreements between this country and that country on immigration.
Let me come in there. Why has the Atlantic routes, migration routes, become, increasingly popular despite its deadly risk?
Despite the deadly risk? Well, it's the only solution they have. There's a reason why we call it overseas. They have to cross the sea. Is either you fly or you go through the Atlantic. Now, this is the thing about flying. You can't fly and enter a country illegally by flying. You would be stopped at the airport. There's no way. But through the sea, there are seaports. There are so many routes you can take through the sea that government oversight cannot cover at all. Because look at the world. The world is just one body of water with small, small land. Now, that's the layman's definition of it, but basically that's how it works. So water is the best way to get into another country, into the country that you feel has a better system than yours, without, getting into the sites, without crossing the sites of the law or of the enforcement officers.
So what does this tragedy reveal about the economic, the social pressures driving African youths to attempt irregular migration?
What it reveals is that African governments have failed, and they need to step back. They need to look. They need to clean the drawing board and start all over again. The government has failed. If your youths, the backbone of any country's economy and development, if the youths are running away from this country in droves, and and they are taking every human risk possible, and I'm using the word human because it's a risk to life. It's a risk to health. They are willing to take this risk. It means that they have been driven to such a level that both economically and socially, that the pressure on them has been much that they would rather put their lives at risk than stay a day longer in that nation. So the African leaders have failed.
The African leaders have failed. So what's your advice to African leaders?
Like I said, it is time to restart all over again. Whatever you guys are doing is not working. It's not working. I mean, a child could see it. Look at Nigeria. Nigeria is our home country, so I'm going to always base my position from Nigeria itself. Look at Nigeria. Look at the Japa syndrome in Nigeria. If Nigeria had a working system, nobody would want to go to another country, to another man's country, and work for peanuts and work dehumanizing jobs. Nobody would take that risk. You mean I will leave my parents' house, I will live where I'm being fed and everything, and I will take that risk, passing through the Sahara Desert? We have not even talked about that. The risks of just crossing the Sahara alone before you can cross the Atlantic. Many people die on the way to the Atlantic, then you get to the Atlantic again, and your life is just not guaranteed. Come on. The truth of the matter is nobody wants to die. Everybody is afraid of death. But when the situation has gotten such that you have people, not minority, you have a lot of people, because year in, year out, we keep hearing this. These are big numbers, and they are willing to take that risk. They are willing to take that risk where their life is not guaranteed, where they are not sure they will reach that location alive, rather than stay back in the country. Then the leadership of that country has failed. And thus, for the leaders, you have to go back to the drawing board and you have to enact real policies that impact the life of the people for positive.
Okay, viewers, we'll be drawing the curtain, but before we do that, I have just one more question to my analyst here. You know, you've talked about this beyond rescue efforts. What long-term policy solutions could reduce this migrant deaths at sea?
Like I said before, this is not a policy issue. This is simply failure. This is leadership failure. At the federal level, at the state level, at the lowest echelon of leadership in the nations of the victims of this tragedy, this is leadership failure. So the truth of the matter is not policies. There has been so many policies being enacted to curb this illegal migration, illegal immigration and immigration into foreign countries from African countries. Is not going to work. The more policies that are being enacted, the truth of the matter is the more people are going to risk their lives. What needs to be done is that back home, charity begins at home. Back home, you got to make the country conducive for your people. Let me use this analogy of a shepherd and a sheep. When a shepherd guides his sheep, when they are looking for food, the shepherd always makes sure to take his sheep to the best pasture. Why? Because only when the pasture is the best, that's when the sheep can relax. That's when the sheep follow the shepherd wholeheartedly. It's the same thing with leadership and citizens of a country. When the leadership makes the country hard for the citizens start looking for an escape route. So it's not policy. It's about making the country conducive.
All right, thank you so much, my analyst. Thank you, Ajiboye Ohunayo.
Thank you also for your time.
Before we wrap up the show, I believe you have, you know, a pattern remark. But I want to say this, as this story already shows, whether it is political accountability at home or the management of public resources, as we have seen, or the desperation driving people to risk their lives at sea, the common thread remains responsibility. Just as he has said, how leaders act and how institutions respond will continue to shape public trust and human outcomes. So what is your pattern remark to the viewers right now?
Well, my pattern remark to the viewers is the fact that we all have to collectively build the country of our dreams. At this time, it is time for Nigerians to stop standing on the sidelines. We need to actively, well-meaning Nigerians, we need to actively get involved in politics now. We need to actively start doing everything we can to ensure that we get the best outcome out of our governments.
Thank you so much. This is where we're drawing the curtain today on the CONFAB, on Esteem Radio Vision. Thank you so much, our viewers, for choosing Esteem Radio Vision. Thank you for staying with us, and don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment for us in the comment section. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more interesting programs for your listening and watching pleasure. Okay, I want to say thank you to my analyst, Ajiboye Ohunayo. Thank you so much for the insight.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and also to the CEO, our chairman, in the person of Deacon Michael Adeboye Ashaolu, the founder of Eniakbonle Foundation and Esteem Radio Vision. Thank you so much for all you do, sir. And also to our producer in the person of Afolabi Adenibekun. Thank you. This is where we'll be wrapping up the show. I still remain Chidima Abel. Bye for now.